Hey, Energizer, Spencer Jones here with another episode of the Jonesin Force Show. But it's not just me. Nope, not this time. It's not a solo show. We can have some fun because we have an amazing guest here today talking about overcoming obstacles, how to deal with limiting beliefs, because this is something that we all of us struggle from to some degree or another. And we all have to work our way through it. If we want to live our lives to the max, if we want to get the most out of life, we need to overcome those obstacles. We need to set those limiting beliefs aside and work through them. And why not bring an expert in to help us do that? So please help me welcome my new friend and our awesome guest today, Terri Kozlowski. Thank you for being here joining us. Thank you.
Very pleasurable to be here with you, Spencer. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Me too. And I'm excited to learn from you of how I can become better at, because we all face these obstacles in our life and limiting beliefs. And it's crazy. But before we hop into that, could you share a little bit about you so our Energizer family can learn more about you and how you've come upon the wisdom that you have now?
My wisdom is hard won. It was my life experience. I had a traumatic childhood, and because of that, I became overwhelmed with a sense of fear, and for decades lived my life from that place of fear, and realized along the way that there has to be a better way, because I'm looking at others and they seem happy and not scared of everything, and they are going ahead and making big leaps and choices that I would struggle with on making, what should I have for breakfast? If I make a wrong choice of what I have for breakfast, then I'll be hungry later, all those stupid little things that run through our egoic mind. And through some therapy when I was a child, and then on my own, I learned and realized that we're our own worst enemy. And yet at the same time, we are the best friend we could possibly have. And it's being able to understand that there's those two sides of us and how we're supposed to walk through life, befriending both sides of ourselves.
We hear so many people talk about that negative side, right? We're our own worst enemy, our biggest bully, critic, all those things tied into it. And so many people focus on that, which is, it's understandable, right? It's a concern that we all have. But looking at it from a different side, that 180 perspective of going, oh no, you are your own best friend. And when you said that, I thought, holy crap, you're 100% right, because we're with us 100% of the time, the critic, correct, but also that best friend. The best friend is just rooting us on. And how did you discover that best friend component when so many people are focused on the negative?
One of the things that a lot of us struggle with is quiet. And when you get quiet, something really strange and amazing happens. You start to actually hear the whispers of your heart. And your heart is your best friend. Your heart is your soulful self. Your heart is that part connected to the universe and to all other living things and all other human beings. And when we actually get quiet, the only time we can hear that soulful voice, because the egoic voice is obnoxious and it rants and raves and it yells and screams and it gets our attention really easily. But it takes us practice to get quiet. So I struggled with meditation for years. So I'm one of those people that tried and finally got it. But I got it completely by accident. I went to yoga class, and I went to yoga class for over 6 months. And at Shavasana, corpse pose at the end, I finally realized, holy shit, I'm not thinking anything. And I realized that's what meditation is. It's being able to get that quiet and not have any thoughts go through your head. And when that occurred, that whisper started coming forth and bubbling up. And I realized at that point, I'm a good person. I'm really helpful to others. And I started realizing that the wisdom that we search outside of ourselves really is deep down already in us. We already have all the answers to all the questions we will ever ask within us. We're afraid to get quiet because that egoic voice says, who are you? What life experience do you have? But you know what? Spencer, you know yourself better than anybody else on the planet. Your mother doesn't know you as well as you know you. So how can somebody who obviously, because most mothers love their children, those people, when they're lovingly trying to protect you, raise you, and guide you, think that when you say, I want to start a podcast, and they look at you like, what skill set? Start a podcast. When they start questioning you about that, it's not about them saying, hey, I don't love you. It's about really the egoic voice popping in up and saying, who are you to do this? You are Spencer Jones. You are perfectly able to do whatever it is your heart desires. And if your heart is telling you, go start a podcast or two, by all means, go start a podcast or two. And when you are in your element, and I can clearly see you are in your element, it's joyful, it's energetic, it's authentic, and people see that. And that is exactly what we are supposed to be, our authentic selves. But we get bombarded by the armor and the masks and the labels and the roles that other people put upon us. And because of that, our authenticity is hidden away underneath all of that. And so for a lot of people, especially people who've had trauma like myself, we think we're fragmented, that we're broken. In reality, we're always whole. We are never broken people. What has happened is we've broken because we have cracks in our authenticity, and our authenticity tries to shine through, but we have armor on, we have masks on, we put those labels across, and we take on roles that were never ours to take on. And when we are not living authentically, we feel broken.
100%. I love that analogy that we are always whole regardless, and that the authenticity is there's cracks within that, and it's just trying to shine through. And you're right, like I am in my element. I love doing this. I love helping people have a positive mindset, living their lives to the max, and that shines through, right? They call me the Prince of Positivity and this bright light. Like, you see me when I walk in a room. Not trying to boast, this is just what people have said, because I live in my purpose. I have that, and that's what I hope that all of our energizers are doing. I see it in you, that you are you, that you have this beautiful radiant light coming from you because you are whole. You're not letting that wholeness shielded in. You're not letting any armor or masks or anything, whatever you choose to call it, block that beautiful light. You're like, no, I'm just going to let my authentic, real self shine through and let the world see it as me, right? To let me be me and be okay with the world seeing it. And that can be scary at times, right? Because
it can be very scary, because we spend the first 7 or 8 years of our life being our authentic selves. Look at small children under the age of 7, and you will see them being their authentic selves. And then we do a terrible thing. We put them into a school environment and tell everybody, you have to conform. You have to be good boys and good girls, and you have to do these things, and you're going to learn this way. And we start looking for conformity.
Right.
And then we end up with peer pressure, is really about making us conform into some mold that we were never meant to be. We were never meant to be put in a box. We're meant to be open and free, creative beings. That's how we were created to be. And when we start putting ourselves in boxes and understanding that we're conforming to what? What are we trying to conform to? Nobody's normal. Everybody is unique. Everybody is different. Everybody has their own light shining. And yet, why are we trying to have everybody conform into something that we are not? There's a difference between getting along and conforming. You and I can have difference of opinions and still be friends. Right. You and I can be completely an opposite views away for us to move forward together and make the world a better place, because your point of view and my point of view are just as relevant in a global perspective.
I think so many people struggle with that, especially in the last handful of years, but they've struggled with it for many, many more years. It just, we've seen it much more prevalent. But you're right, that my opinion's right, your opinion's wrong. No, it's not even right or wrong. It's mine has value and worth, yours has value and worth. Let's just we could agree to disagree with certain things, and let's just move on and we could still love each other. We could still share our energy with each other and support one another, even if we don't necessarily agree with them. And so many people struggle with that. There's one thing I want to go back before we get too far away from that, and that is, you mentioned with meditation, you struggle with it. I was the same way. I struggled. My inner voice was just going crazy. I couldn't focus at all. It took me a long time, and like you, I've had success with it. It took lots of time and practice, but I was curious. And you said when you were quiet, your inner critic, yeah, that inner bully, right, started just screaming and shouting and making all the noise. And I know people personally who have said, I can't meditate because that voice is so loud that I break down into tears. I just self-destruct essentially at that point. How can we get beyond that to find that love and listen to our heart, to listen to our best friend?
So one of the best ways to do it is breath work. And what I mean by that is your body has a physical reaction to taking deep breaths. Okay. So if you take a deep breath to a count of 5, hold it for a count of 5 and release it to the count of 5. You do that at least 3 times in a row, your autonomic nervous system kicks in. Mm-hmm. And what it automatically does is it de-stresses you. It lowers your blood pressure. It actually lowers your breathing rate. And all of a sudden you are much calmer than you were. So if you continue to do breath work and just focused on the breath work over a period of time, you'll find out that you can get quiet, that inner critic does get quiet. And you have to remember that the inner critic doesn't want you to get quiet. It doesn't want you to hear the soulful voice that's telling you, encouraging you. That's where our self-esteem comes from, is that heart soulful center. And the critic, the egoic mind, is the down all the time. So for us to believe in ourselves, we must get quiet. We must be able to hear our soulful voice and understand that we are whole beings. We are creative beings of light, and we are on this earth for a purpose. And whatever that purpose is when we shine. It's when everything else, when we lose time, we're in flow with the universe. You know, when people talk about being in flow, that's what they're talking about. They are completely in their element. Time ceases and 8 hours pass or 3 hours pass. And you're like, where did the time go? Because you were so much being authentically you. And when you are authentically you and are in flow with the universe, joy bubbles up, because joy is a soulful quality. Peace bubbles up because peace is a soulful quality. That means you have all these things within you, but you keep pushing it all down because you allow the egoic voice to rule.
So is breathwork the best way to quiet that egoic mind, to allow ourselves to find that peace and that quiet, that love? Is breathwork the best way?
For most people who struggle with those types of thoughts, yes. You start off with the breath work, and then at some point you can start adding in mantras. And for a lot of people, they don't understand mantras, and it really is simplistic. My favorite one is So Hum, which is just so in the word hum, because it means I am. Okay, it's Sanskrit. And it's easy to do. You breathe in so, exhale hum. It's very easy because your mind, the egoic mind, wants something to play. So hum is still a energetic, positive, vibrational frequency that allows you to maintain the calm, let your mind do something that is positive for you. Because all you're repeating in Sanskrit is I am, and I am. And one of the other things that I did start doing as I started writing out I am statements, I have a little 1.5-inch notebook, and every day I write 20 I am statements. Nice. Something simple as, I am one with spirit. I am unafraid. Anything that I'm trying to change my inner critic to realize that, I am not a fearful being. I'm not going to live my life from a fear. I'm responding with love in all situations. When you start repeating and writing out, for me, writing is twofold. It's because you're thinking it and then you're physically doing it.
Right.
So writing is always that extra oomph that allows you to be physically active in recreating your mindset. And when you recreate your mindset, all kinds of things can happen. And you start seeing your perspective shift. Because when you don't, what you don't realize is when you are negatively living from a place of fear, when you're allowing that inner critic to be in control of the steps you take in your life, your fear is being projected out into the world. So you see everything through the eyes of fear. And fearful living is a very, very sad and negative place to be. Your vibrational frequency is much lower. The light that you are emitting from that inner soulful self is dimmer. And the moment you start to switch that, your light becomes brighter and your vibrational frequency increases. Starting off with those morning I am statements really does change your vibrational frequency from when you get up in the morning and say, oh, crap, I'm starting another day. It really does change. One of the things that I do is, I do the breath work, 3 deep breaths and everything before I ever get out of bed, so that I've already started that. And then I meditate. I have Terry's morning time. Terry's morning time is meditation. I write my I am statements. I write 3 pages of journaling every morning so that I'm grounded. And I am at my peak vibrational frequency. And the higher the vibrational frequency I have in the morning, the more likely that by the end of the day, I'm not vibrating at 0 or at negative vibrations, that I'm still having a good day. Because when you start out high and that vibrational frequency and your joy is high, your peace is high, when things happen, it rolls off your back a lot easier than if you start at a lower vibrational frequency.
So true. And I love all of that. The morning routine, the affirmations, the I am statements. And I have a very similar morning routine where I wake up and I think of my gratitudes, I brush my teeth, I go downstairs to work out. And before I even work out, I take out my journal, I journal, right? Whatever fits for that day, whether it's a paragraph or pages, I journal, and then I write my affirmations, and then I write down my gratitudes. I don't just think them, because I'm with you. Writing it down is so much deeper, because you're seeing it, you're feeling it, you're thinking it, all those things. And so I write down my gratitudes for the day, and then I start my workout and continue on. Then I have a night ritual. But having those things is so important. And now, when we started this conversation, you were sharing about your past, and you said you were negative, right? You're vibrating very low because you're afraid. You were thinking, oh, I have to make this choice. Now this choice is this breakfast going to keep me full long enough for this day? And you see people going through life seemingly without any worry, right? That it was just nice, easy, that their decisions were so much easier than yours, in a sense. At least that's how I could see it being felt. How did you break that cycle? I mean, was it all of a sudden you're like, okay, now I'm just going to do my morning routine and do this? Or how did you develop and pull yourself from, oh my God, I have all these choices I need to make that are drowning me, to going, no, I'm treading water, to no, now I'm good. I'm on a life raft. Now I'm on my own boat, and now I'm on shore, or whatever that process was.
It was a process. And because of my traumatic background, I lived from a state of victimhood for about 10 years. And I had in college a friend say to me that I got something out of playing the victim, which what am I getting from this? So because of that friend, I paused and thought about, what am I getting from playing the victim? And what I realized is I was getting something out of it. When you play that victim card, and I'm not saying everybody plays the victim card, that's how I'm using it to explain my behavior. When I did that, people left me alone, which was the number one thing I wanted people to do. I wanted people to leave me alone. So when I started talking about, oh, I'm a victim of trauma, people don't know how to handle that. And this was back in the mid 80s, the early 90s. So people did not talk about trauma, did not talk about child abuse or anything like that. It was hush hush. It was a secret. So therefore, being vocal about it made people uncomfortable. So I realized, oh, maybe there's a better way to communicate to people. I communicate that differently and become a survivor. And when I became a survivor, this happened. One, I regained control of my life, because now the people who perpetrated my trauma were no longer in control, because I was making decisions moving forward instead of looking at the past, staying. And that's what I call depression. Depression is looking at the past and staying there focused on the past. Anxiety is focusing on the future and only staying focused on the future, which can be very scary when you're looking at thousands of choices that you can make looking forward.
Right.
What I discovered was, if you stay in the present moment, everything's okay. You're not depressed about the past. You're not anxious about the future. You're living in the present moment. And most of the time we're living in the present moment, everything really is okay. We're joyful. We're at peace. We are being our authentic selves, because guess what? You can't be your authentic self if you are anxious about the future, because you are not being present. You can't be your authentic self if you are depressed and looking at the past, because you aren't in the present moment. So living life authentically means that you must be currently living in the present moment, having a conversation with Spencer and Terri, listening to the podcast, and understanding that this present moment is for my growth. This present moment is for the benefit and service of others. This present moment is about making sure everybody knows that they are loved just as they are.
That's phenomenal. Just knowing that, to be in the present moment and going through those traumas, I personally can't relate to that. And I can imagine the stress and just struggle that you went through, and people having it to be hush hush, and it's sad and disgusting, really, how many people struggle with trauma in their lives of different varieties. And
correct.
It's horrible. And the thing is, you don't need to keep it in, right? And you don't need to keep silent about it. I hope you don't. I hope you talk to a therapist, a counselor, a friend, whoever it is that can help pull you through, so that you can then take that advice of, okay, let's come to the present moment. Let's work through that trauma. Let's work through, and then I'm not even gonna say move past it, because it's always there with you. But those lessons that if you can take with you, and how you can grow from it, as opposed to it being that anchor that's holding you back into it and being the victim. Well, release that anchor so that you can then go forward and shine brighter, because all it's doing is dimming your beautiful light. Come
Correct.
to that moment and shine bright. And there's other things besides just coming to that present moment and take those steps. But being present is huge, because so many people are stuck in the future or in the past.
Correct.
Come here.
Correct.
Come enjoy the moment. Hey, sorry to butt in like this, but I have something really cool I want to share with you. Something that I know it can help you live your life to the max. What am I talking about? I'm talking about a roadmap that gets you to your destination. What do roadmaps do, right? Well, you have your destination. It shows you how to get there, the best way to get to that point. And you know what? That's what I have. What is this roadmap I'm talking about? I'm talking about my book, Chase Your Passion. That's right, you have a passion, you have a destination, you have goals, dreams you want to achieve, but maybe you're confused on how to get there. Maybe you're feeling stuck. Well, my book, Chase Your Passions, is that roadmap. It guides you through how to create that plan, how to create that roadmap, how to get over hurdles so you can have success. So if you're ready to ditch the excuses, if you're ready to get unstuck and ready to have success, to taste success and feel amazing, to achieve your goals and dreams, get your copy of Chase Your Passions. It's available on Amazon, or just head to my website, spencermjones.com. All right, let's catch y'all later, and let's keep chasing our passions. Let's go.
So the other aspect of overcoming was understanding that I could reframe the story I was telling myself. And this goes back into the self-talk and that inner critic. The inner critic and forms our limiting beliefs. And sadly, our limiting beliefs come from the interactions, almost all of them, we've had in childhood, whether it's with family or a teacher, somewhere along the way, when you have a limiting belief, it came from seeds that were planted, because before you were 7, you thought you were Superman. I was Wonder Woman. There was nothing we couldn't do. The world was our oyster.
Right.
And then we conform. And then we have people tell us, you have a teacher tell you, your painting is not good. And now you're not creative, and you don't pick a paintbrush up for 25 years. That was me. So I speak
Mine
from
was
experience
math.
from that one.
Mine was math. I thought I was horrible at math for years and still kind of do to a degree, but it's that story we're telling ourselves.
Correct. It's absolutely the story we tell ourselves. So when you learn to reframe that story you tell yourself, instead of I'm not creative, I can just say, I'm going to start to paint. And just start something simple. And really what I did is I started a happiness project. Do you know Gretchen Rubin's book, The Happiness Project?
Love it.
Okay. So it's a fabulous book. It's about focusing every month on something you want to add to your life because you love it. And I really loved art. And so the fact that I wasn't doing any of that because of a teacher 25 years earlier was sad. So I decided that I was going to start coloring, and I got an adult coloring book, and I started coloring every week. And that grew into me taking painting classes every week. I was taking 3 painting classes a week.
Oh my God.
To the fact that now I have my own studio in my house. Wow. And I can go up at any time and play in my studio, all different kinds of ways, through painting or art, whatever. I have all kinds of things up there, so that because it brought me joy. And those things that bring you joy open you up to other things. For example, because I opened up to the painting again, I realized how much I like to write. Lo and behold, I write a book. I started blogging. I've been blogging for several years. And then that grew into a podcast. So when we go back and re-engage with our creative selves, other avenues open up for us that we never would have thought of because of the story we were telling ourselves, I'm not creative.
That's huge. And it could all come from one person, one word, heck, one look from a person, and it's not even necessarily that they said it or the way they said it. It can be, but it's all how we perceived it.
Correct.
How we take that. And it's amazing. I think back to my childhood and words and phrases, or just how I perceived people thought of me, looked at me, changed how I thought about myself and how I interacted with my limiting beliefs. A very quick story on my end. I was homeschooled, and I was in band at the public high school. And I always thought I was a weird kid, just whatever. No one really liked me because I didn't really have any friends within that band group at that time. And so that's the story I've told myself for years and years and years and years, right? Now I'm an adult. I was a music middle school and high school choir director for 9 years. And during, I think it was my last year in the school system as I was teaching, I had a student who was a son of one of my classmates from where I went to band, which is just crazy. And we were talking at a parent-teacher conference one day, and I said, "Oh, I was always the weird kid." She's like, "Nah, no, I never thought you were weird at all." And I'm just going, okay. And I totally thought you did. Now here's this story I told myself for years and years and years that probably wasn't even true, but it's something I picked up. And then that limiting belief of, well, this is going to hold me back because I was homeschooled, because I was different, or whatever it is. I'm not good at painting or drawing or music or this, that, whatever. We have to let go of those limiting beliefs. And to do that, is you're saying, is to change that narrative we are telling ourselves, and not judge it, but just saying, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start painting. I'm going to play the piano. I'm going to learn to do this, or whatever that first step is. Is that right?
It's about reframing the story. So for something that is harder to do other than something that's creative, okay, because that we can take on ourselves. So for example, my mother, who was part of the trauma I had as a child, told me that if my sister and I were dropped in the woods, my sister would survive and I would perish.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So for decades, I believed that I was going to perish. I wasn't going to be able to survive anything. And I realized after she died, hey, wait a second. I'm still here. Obviously, I am a survivor, not somebody that's going to perish when all the bad things happen in life. So, but it took me a long time to just say, that's wrong. That's a lie. She lied to me. And yet I chose to believe the lie. And that's where we start, you chose to believe the lie. You told yourself that you were the weird kid.
Right.
Okay. Nobody told you that.
Nope.
Even though my mother did tell me that, tell me that I wasn't a survivor. It's that we take that on and we believe it.
Right.
Even though there is no proof whatsoever that those statements were true or those beliefs were true. And that is where I say we reframe the story. We look at, okay, is there proof that I am weird? Mm-hmm. Well, technically, there's proof that all of us are weird because we're all unique and different.
I was going to say, none of us are normal.
Correct. And yet at the same time, for me, was there proof that I'm going to perish? Well, no, there wasn't. I lived through quite a bit and I'm still here. And not only am I surviving, but I am thriving. Therefore, that's a lie. And I need to reframe that and understand that. And when we just look at some of those things that we were told, I was not trying to be Picasso in my 9th grade art class. Okay. So reframing that was about, I just enjoy painting. So let me paint again. I'm not trying to make money doing it. I've painted all kinds of stuff. It's all hanging through my house. If you don't like it coming into my house, I don't care. I enjoy doing it. It's hanging in my walls. I'm happy. And that's really what that creative process is about. That's really what us being creative beings of light. We're meant to create something, whether it is a podcast, a book, a painting, music, whatever it is that we are to create, a loving family, serving others. That's part of our creative being of light that we're supposed to pass on and live in the world. So reframing that. And when somebody says, you're not good at this, you're not good at that, you do need to be honest with yourself. And what I mean by that is there are things that I am not good at, and there are things that I'm better at. So we have our skills and our talents, and we need to know what those are. We also need to know what our strengths and weaknesses are. So, if I'm fabulous at math until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then my brain does not function and will not do math. Okay. Just will not. I need a calculator after 1 o'clock. Before 1 o'clock, I can do pretty much all that in my head. So it's interesting that, but guess what? I write fabulously in the afternoon, much better than I write in the morning. So it's like my analytical brain is functioning until about 1. And then in the afternoon, my creative brain takes over, and that's fine. As long as I know that I worked in corporate, I only did accounting things in the morning, never did them in the afternoon because I knew how I worked. So know your strengths and weaknesses. Understand that you're not supposed to be perfect at everything. There are things that, I don't like editing my podcast. Do I do it? Yes. I edit the audio without any problem. I hate editing the video for the YouTube channel. Hate it, but I do it. And when at some point, yes, I'm going to have somebody, that's one of the first things I'm going to pass on to somebody else. But I know that it's one of my weaker points. So I stand, when I do the editing, I'm very conscious of the fact that, okay, let me look at this again. All right, looks good, because I know I don't like doing it. And it's understanding ourselves. I authentically know my strengths and weaknesses. And when we know our strengths and weaknesses, it's amazing how the universe brings people into our tribe that are better at those other things than we are.
So true.
And it's a fabulous thing, because then when I need help, I have those people in my life that I can ask, hey, how do I do this? What can I do better here? And that's what our tribe is for. Our tribe is to help us learn and grow in areas that we struggle, just like we're supposed to help those in our tribe learn and grow in areas that they struggle, that we thrive in.
Right. It's a community. You're helping one another be their best, right? One of my strengths might be their weakness, so I can help them, and vice versa. And really building this tribe, this community, this support system around you, and being smart about who that is, so that you're all trying to be better, right? You don't have a person who's dragging it down, or that negative energy source draining everyone, being the energy vampire, as it were. You're thriving. Your team is thriving. Your tribe, community, whatever you choose to call them. That's absolutely huge. Well, one question for you, and I want to look at this in a reverse way, because I'm thinking, okay, teachers, parents, they can say these things to us that can cause this limiting belief that we have for ourselves. And sometimes sometimes they know they're saying it, other times they don't. It's just what it is. Well, I was a teacher, and I'm not a parent, but many people, energizers are, or teachers, and whoever you are, you have interactions with people. How can we do our best to not lay those limiting beliefs on another person?
Okay, so from a teacher perspective, it's very simplistic. You are grading children on not their creativity. You are grading children on learning skills. If you don't think that it is a pretty picture, if you don't think that the story was a creative story, but the grammar and all those skills that were needed to create that were present, grade them on the skill set, not the creativity aspect of it. Okay. Because creativity is very subjective. Right. What Spencer thinks is art and what I think is art could be very, very different. Okay. But it's still art in our eyes. And so we have to understand that creativity is subjective. So from a teaching perspective, grade only on the skill set. From a parent perspective, understand that you are trying to raise a whole, authentic person. Just because you don't agree with something doesn't mean that you should not encourage the child to explore other things that you may not have been exposed to. So I'm in my mid-50s, and I raised two boys who are now 30. When I was in high school, the worst thing that could happen was that a girl would get pregnant. Okay. There wasn't ever any discussion about homosexuality. There wasn't ever any discussion about sex other than, oh my gosh, don't get pregnant.
Right.
So when my boys were in high school and they openly talk about this person is gay and that person's a lesbian, it never would have occurred in my school when I grew up. So being open-minded as a parent, I never said anything because that was normal for them. Just because it wasn't normal for me doesn't mean it's wrong. And that is where judgments start coming in. And parents tend to judge things based on their past experiences because that is what we can't really speak to newfangled things that we haven't been exposed to. But that being said, it's about making sure that you are raising loving children who are accepting of others, because you want them to accept you and your authenticity, and you want others to accept them and their authenticity. And when all is said and done, if I asked Spencer before I came on, so what mask do you want me to wear today? He's going to say, I don't want you to wear a mask. I want you to be authentically you. And when we ask our friends and loved ones, do you want me to lie to you? Do you want me to tell you the truth? They always want the truth. They want us to be authentic. And yet that egoic voice, that inner critic, always tells us they won't like who we are. They won't accept us for our true identity. And when we start believing that, instead of being our authentic self, when we want others to be authentic with us, we absolutely want to be authentic with them, then we have to start living in that present moment, being our authentic selves and allowing our light to shine. The more of us that allow our light to shine, the brighter the world will be. And the brighter the world is, the more peace there is, the more joy there is. And when you see people like Spencer and you see his fabulous smile and bright eyes, you know that he's being his authentic self. And that if you ask him a question, he's going to give you his truth. That doesn't mean it's my truth, but it's his truth. And we have to honor that it's his truth. Just like parents have to honor the truth of their children is not going to be the same as their truth.
I love that. Love being open, being aware, and being accepting of things that are different, right? And just having that standpoint of like, it's okay. Again, going back to part of the conversation partway through about going, we can have difference of opinions. That's okay. And that's a beautiful thing. And I honor it. I respect it. And then we see what we need to do from then on out. I absolutely love that. I am so grateful to have you here and joining us, sharing this amazing wisdom and all the nuggets of truth and help us live our lives to the max. I have one question. I guess there's two questions technically, but one question left, and that is, if you were to give an energizer your best tip to help them live their lives to the max, what would that be?
Right now, understand that you are perfect as you are. You are a unique being of light that was created to be just you. That means that you are worthy just as you are, and you are way more than enough just as you are. And as the minute you accept and know that about yourself, your life will automatically change.
Oh my gosh. I absolutely love it. I couldn't say it better, because that is how that's pretty much how I answer that. The thing that I say at the end of almost every podcast, that I say more times than not, anytime I speak, is you are enough just the way you are. No matter what happened before, you don't have to change anything, do anything, or prove anything. You are enough. And that's something I think we all need to accept, because you're right. Once you accept that, your life changes so much more. That armor drops and your light shines brighter.
And it's amazing, because when you look at a newborn baby, nobody looks at that newborn baby and says it's not being productive. Okay. But everybody loves and accepts that baby just as it is. And it's more than enough just as it is. And yet, as we age, now we start, why all of a sudden do we have to take on all these responsibilities that are not ours to take on, and not understand that we were all infants at one point, and therefore we were all worthy just as we are. Where did we lose our worthiness? What happened? What caused us to lose our worthiness within ourselves? Because it doesn't matter if Spencer thinks I'm worthy or not. It matters that I think I'm worthy.
Exactly. We need to accept that for us. It's great if someone else thinks it.
Correct.
Great. But it really boils down to, do you believe it? And full in. Oh my gosh, I love that. How can people connect with you, with your podcast, get a copy of your book, and how can they work with you?
Go to terrikozlowski.com. On my website, you will find my blog. You can go to soulsolutionspodcast.com and find all the links to all the different shows. And my book is raventranscendingfear.com. And it is the step-by-step struggle that I went through, not only through my trauma, but through my recovery, and understanding that being authentically me was all I was ever meant to do in my life. And the moment I realized that if I'm authentically me, everything else will work out, was life-changing.
I love that. I can't wait to get my copy of the book and read through that. And I love the mission, the movement you're on of spreading that love of saying you are enough just the way you are, be authentically you. That's absolutely phenomenal. So Energizers, get a copy of her book, listen to the podcast, be part of her, welcome her into our family, and go be part of hers as well, her community, her tribe. And if you didn't get those links when she said it, don't worry, we got you covered. You can go to spencermjones.com/Jonesin4 show, grab this episode. You will see a full transcript, full show notes, I should say, of this show. And all the links will be there for you as well. Terri, this has been truly amazing. Thank you for being open without any masks on in front of you, just being you, authentically you. This is so amazing. And I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you very much, Spence, for having me. I enjoyed our time together.
Me as well. Energizers, take that love, that energy with you. Let your light shine. Be authentically you, right? You are worthy. You are enough. Shine bright And, make sure you hit follow, subscribe so that you don't miss another episode, whether solo or another amazing guest here shining their love and light to you. So with that, everyone, thank you so much. Have an amazing day, and I'll catch you later.